And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future. In here, the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. Be safely traveling with us. We'll bring the studio in about 1 minute. We're letting the news run right now. I just want to let you know that coming up very soon, less than 62 days now, I believe, is the Human Origins Conference. It's in New Mexico. It's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I think you should go. You want to find out more about it, go to my website, brooksagnew.com, brooksagnew.com. The link will be right down here in the description, and you can find out more about it, getting tickets and hotels and all that stuff. It's at a great resort. You'll enjoy it. Okay, let's bring the studio in. Should be good to go here, I believe.
And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears, upon the wheels, upon the levers, by all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station. Throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio. All right, thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
So glad you could be here with us tonight. We'll play a little bit of intro music. Excellent. Good to have you all here on the Revolution Radio Network with freedomslips.com. This is the America Free Radio Studios, somewhere in an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. Let's get started. We only have 2 hours. I know, just catch up, chat room. You're coming on. Just keep coming. First story tonight, I call Mach 10. It is unlikely that a new extremely high-speed drone is capable of Mach 10. That's hypersonic flight. The Pentagon is still struggling to reach Mach 5. Iran is the only other country besides the United States to operate arguably history's most powerful interceptor aircraft, the F-14 Tomcat. And the Islamic Republic has been working the twin-engine swing-wing fighters very hard. Even with stolen technology, it could not have developed the drone speed that was observed. The Americans retired their F-14s in 2006, but around 40 of Iran's Tomcats remain active. Their main role is defending Iran's nuclear sites. It's a mission that has brought the interceptors in close contact with some very mysterious aircraft lately. And this is something that people just can't explain. The Iranians who track these drones speed across the sky believed the objects were spy drones belonging to the U.S. CIA, sent to sniff out Tehran's suspected atomic weapons program. But they attribute to these alleged unmanned aerial vehicles flight characteristics and capabilities far beyond what any known drone can achieve. You remember in early 2012, shortly after Hillary Clinton assassinated the president of Libya, one of the alleged flying robots reportedly also shot down an F-14 attempting to intercept it, or at least some Iranians seem genuinely to believe so. Over the decades, Tehran has built 3 major nuclear facilities that could, in theory, be used to assemble atomic weapons. Reactors at Bushehr and Iraq, and an enrichment plant at Natanz. The infrastructure became public knowledge in 2002, so no doubt the CIA took a strong interest, potentially long before that date. A number of reconnaissance UAVs were sent to collect intelligence to prepare for a possible attack, but to protect the nuke facilities in 2004, Iran deployed a task force composed of 8 F-4E fighters and 8 F-14 plus a former 707 airliner to use as AWACS and a C-130 cargo plane outfitted with sensors and radios for command and control, just to protect these facilities. The Iranian task force did encounter what it believed were CIA drones with astonishing flight characteristics. The UAVs could jam radars, they could disrupt interceptor navigation systems, they flew outside the atmosphere at speeds of up to Mach 10. They could hover, they could fly at night, and they emitted a telltale blue light, very similar to a plasma or ion drive technology that led to their nickname, luminous objects. In several cases, F-14 faced them, but they were unable to operate their armament systems. One Tomcat taking off to intercept a luminous object on January 26, 2012, mysteriously exploded, killing both crewmen. They imply that the alleged UAV was somehow responsible, as the F-14 in question was one of their fittest of the 40 or so Tomcats then in service. Now, it should go without saying that the CIA and the Pentagon most likely do fly reconnaissance aircraft near, even probably over, the Iranian nuclear sites. In 2012 and 2013, Iranian fighters tried to intercept American Predator drones outside Tehran's airspace. And, the F-22 stealth fighter blocked the intercept with some Top Gun-style theatrics. But in 2009, the Air Force copped to the existence of a new, previously secret drone operated in conjunction with the intelligence agency. It was called the RQ-170. You remember that? Very kind of, Independence Day looking drone. But what happened was the Iranians grabbed it and flew it to the ground undamaged. So this was nothing that the Iranians couldn't deal with. Neither the Predator nor the RQ-170 Sentinel is particularly high flying, and they certainly can't hover, and they can't glow, and they certainly can't fly at Mach 10. Well, the rumors abound that the Air Force and CIA operate a stealthy new drone that has not been disclosed to the public. Even if they do, it's unlikely that the new UAV is capable of Mach 10. That's just not possible. The Pentagon is still struggling to reach Mach 5. So, if Iranian F-14s truly are chasing around super fast, super high flying, and lethal UFOs, what exactly are they? And who knows? Good question, isn't it? Truth is that they're out there, and they're interested in these areas that have nuclear risk. Interesting story. I don't really have the answer. I wish I did have the answer. No one has a picture of it. No one's captured one. And they do seem to be intelligent who knows if they're UAVs or not? They may be just, really small beings driving them. Yes, welcome everyone to the chat room. We are also on YouTube Live, as well as being live on the Revolution Radio Network on freedomslips.com. This is a viewer and listener supported radio program. So if you want to support Revolution Radio, go to revolutionradio.com or freedomslips.com, click on the donate button, and make it a regular thing. NPR is out there getting your tax money every single month. And have you ever seen the NPR building? No? I mean, if you go to New York, Sirius XM has 3 floors of a building. And it looks pretty cool. It's well done. I mean, it's not state of the art, way over the top, but it's well done. It's not like a bungalow out on a cornfield like some of the AM stations where I've had radio programs in the past. It's upscale, but ain't nothing compared to NPR. NPR is off the chain amazing. The building is super modern, super artistic. It is amazing. And guess who paid for it? You did. They take money out of your weekly paycheck in order to finance NPR radio. And what do they spew? They spew leftist propaganda 24 hours a day. Yes, you can listen to the occasional symphony and, maybe Hearts of Space and stuff like that. But generally speaking, specifically speaking, their news is propaganda. And you're bathed with it every single day. The point is, they're taking your money to do this. So I'm asking you from the heart, take your own money and decide where to spend it on truth and justice and enlightenment, and donate it to Revolution Radio or freedomslips.com. You can also do this radio program specifically by going to x2-radio.com, but you don't have to. This is a hobby of mine. I pay for this out of my pocket. I pay for this. I don't make any money off this. I sell a few books and I'm happy to do it. But you should take a couple bucks each month and make it a regular donation. That's my pitch. Those of you that are in the chat room, welcome. Oh my gosh, you'll see Terry's out there. Kirk, nice to see you. Jules Verne's Ghost, very good. I like that. Tony, good to see you. Dr. Strangelove, good to have you back. Fame, nice. And Christopher, good to see you. And Festus Love, I like that. That's a good name too. And Ronald, good to see you. Agartha, welcome back. Keep it going. The chat room will continue to grow. We have a very intelligent chat room, and I will, Mach 10, right? It's off the charts. We're talking about 8,000 miles an hour. Try making a left-hand turn at that speed and watch what happens to you. Yeah. They spew liberal dribble. That's exactly correct. That's what NPR does, but that's not what we do here. I don't think any of the hosts do that here, even though this is the ultimate in free speech is podcast radio. And that's what we do right here. So let's get back to it. Let the illegal voting begin. Now, you know that non-U.S. citizens who were registered to vote in the 2018 election voted illegally. I was in Chicago. I can absolutely validate and verify at least 100,000 foreign citizens. These are citizens of foreign countries, not citizens of the United States, were registered to vote through the driver's license program. This also took place in New Jersey last month. It's also taking place in New York and Boston and California. And when these people get their driver's licenses, they are automatically registered to vote. Now, if they should realize somehow that they're not supposed to be registered to vote. They're supposed to write to the state and have their names removed from the voter rolls. Of course, nobody does this. How do I know this? Because about 440,000 plus non-citizens in California received notices to serve on jury duty. Of course, an illegal here in the United States, unable to speak our language, has no business serving on jury duty. And so what they do is they inform the court that they cannot serve on jury duty because they are not citizens. I think they're either some kind of action is taken, I don't know. But anyway, they don't serve on the jury. The point is, how you get called to serve on jury duty is through voter registration. So we know at least 440,000, that's a lot. 440,000 people in California were registered to vote even though they were citizens of another country. And those are just the ones that were called to serve jury duty. It may be 10 times that amount. It may be 4-5 million people in the state of California that are registered to vote. Now, I don't think that for a minute that they're not voting in local elections when the local communities are encouraging them to vote, like in their local city council meetings and local sheriff and things like that. But there is nothing to stop them from voting in the general election. And they do. So the board, the WCIA board of Illinois, said on Tuesday that it confirmed 19 people who weren't citizens of the United States voted in Illinois in the election. This set off a firestorm, an audit, a purge, a cleansing, as it were. Secretary of State Jesse White's office blamed the registration of hundreds of non-U.S. citizens on a programming error in the state's automatic voter registration process. But it wasn't. You see, Illinois lets legal and illegal immigrants get a driver's license or a state ID. And in some cases, people who have obtained such IDs are automatically enrolled as voters. That is not a program error. That is a program design. It's a program design. A spokesman for the office said that none of the non-citizens registered to vote are in the United States illegally, but that's not true. None of the following offices have issued public press releases on the situation. Why? Because they don't want citizens to know. Securing our elections, making sure that everybody knows that our democracy is working properly is a priority of mine, said Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker. But that's not true. It is illegal for non-citizens to vote. Punishment can include jail time or deportation. That's the law today, said Pritzker, but nobody's enforcing it. The people who actually voted, the 19 people that have been identified, if they are ineligible to vote, which is what it appears, then they may in fact be deported, but they weren't. Just Democracy Illinois is a nonpartisan group that pushes for a modern, secure, and robust democracy, said what happened was an unconscionable error that puts vulnerable people at terrible personal risk while undermining confidence in our election process. Yes, it does do that. The automatic voter registration, or AVR, wasn't the problem, the group said. Instead, it blamed the Secretary of State's office. The agency's massively delayed and error-riddled implementation of AVR has undermined the law's intended purpose to make Illinois voting rolls more fair, accurate, and secure. We were assured by advocates that this would never happen, and yet it did. Butler and other House Republicans calling for a hearing regarding what happened. This is an absurd lack of compliance with state law, surfacing less than 3 weeks from the opening of early voting for our state's 2020 general primary election. Given this, we are requesting an immediate hearing of the House Executive Committee to investigate the situation and to hear testimony directly from Secretary of State Jesse White, officials of the State Board of Elections, representatives from our local election authorities, and others concerned with this situation. The lawmakers wrote in a letter, which I have linked here in my notes if you want to access them, to Democrat Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan. Now, if you know anything about Illinois, you know that Chicago is Illinois, right? There is no electoral college in Illinois. I don't care if you live in Rockford or Peoria, you don't get to vote. Your vote doesn't count. Only Chicago's vote counts. And you should also know that the House Speaker, Michael Madigan, is running the state of Illinois. He has for a long, long time. That's where the power rests. It is almost mafia-like, the power that Michael Madigan has. I'm not pulling any punches here. I was there. I witnessed it for myself. And when you have Chicago proper, that is actually Illinois, stepping on, usurping, silencing the vote of everyone else in the state, and you add 100,000 plus illegals to your voter rolls, you now have a situation that perpetuates the criminal function of the state. The oversight function of the legislative branch regarding this law must be used to hold the executive branch accountable for ensuring compliance with state law. The trouble is the executive branch in the state is not being run by the governor. It's not being run by the lieutenant governor. It's being run by the Speaker of the House, Michael Madigan. Jim Schneider, the Illinois GOP chairman, said the AVR should be temporarily suspended until a probe uncovering what went wrong is completed. State Senator Andy Manar, a Democrat, said that the Senate would hold a hearing to get answers from the Secretary of State's office if needed. Secretary of State Michael Madigan, if needed. It isn't going to happen. That's exactly what Michael Madigan wants to have happen. He wants 100,000 votes that he can command and that he can apply to keep Democrats in power. All right, let's talk a little bit more about some other power. Welcome, William, to the chat room. What is it? Yes, I still love you, William. That's no problem. Even though I can call past 7 p.m., I'm going on the expedition, $34,000, 2-week vacation. All you have to do is go to npiee.com. Okay, let me see if I can find the website. Here we are. Yes, here it is. I'm going to put it up on the YouTube so you can see it. npiee.com. That stands for North Pole Inner Earth Expedition. You can see it right here on the screen. I will put the link in the description below. If you go to npiee.com, and right there on the front is a button where you can register. Now that just gets you the newsletter. It's free. Don't worry about it. It doesn't cost you anything. We're going to give it to you. We'll keep you posted. If you want to join the expedition, you can click on the sponsorship tab. You see the sponsorship tab up there? It says sponsorship. You click on that tab, and it will open up for you a page which has a button on it that allows you to register. When you click on that button, it opens a Patreon page. That Patreon page is going to give you 8 to 10 different ways to participate in the expedition. It starts at $5, which is very affordable, all the way up to $5,000. Yeah, $5,000. Now, it ain't going to cost you $34,000 for a seat, William. All you have to do is sign up $5,000 a month for a minimum of 5 months, and you're on the ship. Now, there are only 20 spaces. That's it. 20 spaces we're going to sell this way. The rest of it's all for scientists, filmmakers and the documentarians that are working with me. We are going to do a dry run in June. I think it's right after my kids' birthdays, which is the first week of June. All my kids were born in June. We're going to take off. We're going to Moscow, then St. Petersburg, and then Murmansk, Murmansk, that's the way they pronounce it. And that's where the ships are moored. 3 nuclear-powered icebreakers. We hope to catch one of them in port. We hope to get on the ship and film the ship. We're not going to obviously leave with it, but you're going to get to see all of that if you're a member of Hollow Earth TV. You become a member by going to that Patreon and contributing to the expedition. You're going to get a lot of free stuff. You're going to get access to all the videos that are there, which are not only put on by myself, but they're also put on by the other intrepid explorer of our venture, Brad Olson. That's his picture right here below mine. Brad Olson is the Antarctic explorer. He has now published his 10th book on esoterics. He is currently lecturing around the country with me. He's going to be with me at the Human Origins Conference, which is right here. You see the Human Origins Conference, April 2 through 5. And then in Sedona with me. And we're going to be introducing the Hollow Earth expedition to the world. So having Brad on the team is a very, very big plus. And all of the videos that we're producing, which are exclusive to Hollow Earth TV, you get to see. If you get to the $25 level, you also get access to our monthly webinars, where Brad and myself and other members of the team will be live, and you can join us, hundreds of you if you want. You can ask questions, you can find out the latest of what we're doing, and when we go on this dry run, if we can do it, if we get the internet speed is fast enough in Russia, we're going to live stream from Russia and show you what you're going to see. So it's a great dry run. It's the only way you're going to get access to it, and that's the way to do it. So you don't need 34,000. You only need 25,000, and you'll be one of the 125 going. And you better bring some Dramamine, because this is not going to be a trip for the light of heart or people that get seasick. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the Bolton Game. The Bolton Game. Let's just start with a little humor, because you'll get how crazy this whole thing that's been going on today. If you've been watching the Impeachment Show, Season 5, you have seen the phase where written questions are submitted to the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice reads the question rather dispassionately, so you don't get the Schiff spin or the Nadless spin on it. And then the defense attorneys for the Republicans answer the question with the facts. And this is how crazy it is, because now they're playing the Bolton game. Evidently, Bolton has submitted a manuscript to the DSC, the NSC, the National Security Council, for review, because these things have to be reviewed to make sure that no national secrets or sources or methods or anything like that are revealed. Now, I, for one, don't think that cabinet members should be allowed to write a book until 5 years after the presidency in which they serve. That's just my personal feeling. Evidently, it is legal for John Bolton to write a book. So listen closely. A rabbi, a priest, and a pastor meet in a dark back alley in the 1920s New York to play an illegal poker game. Think, like Guys and Dolls or West Side Story, only without the songs. The police get tipped off and they crash the secret game. They see the cash on the table. As they explain their presence, the priest says, "I wasn't gambling. I was just collecting some kind donations from my 2 fellow clergy to help feed some orphaned boys." The cops then turn to the pastor, who says, "I wasn't gambling or playing cards. I was just collecting some kind gifts from my 2 friends here to start a soup kitchen for the hungry." Well, the frustrated cops next turn to the rabbi and say, "Well, What about it? What's your alibi for gambling and playing cards here for money? And the rabbi answers, gambling? Playing cards? With whom? You see, this whole Pelosi plot to steal the presidency for herself is turning into a bigger circus every day. Let's just hypothesize that President Trump said to John Bolton that he would not give Ukraine any funds authorized by Congress until they investigated Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Mo Biden, Larry Biden, Curly Biden, Sneezy, Sleepy, Grumpy, Doc, Bashful, Happy, and of course, Dopey Biden. So what? So what? Seriously, as a matter of undeniable fact, Trump did give the money to Ukraine on time. He gave it within the time assigned to dispense it. He gave it even though Ukraine did not investigate the Biden billion-dollar bribery bordello with Burisma. Ukraine did not even perceive that Trump had held up any money until Politico wrote about it a month later. So what's the problem? Again, it is all another Democrat smokescreen, coordinated with their NPR buddies, with their corrupt journalist media empire. Who freaking cares what Bolton wrote? If he even wrote it, we don't even know. We don't have a copy of it. Even if it is true, what's the difference? Since when do we Americans put people on trial for what they were thinking? Right? They did that in the Nazi Europe. They did it in the Soviet Union. They do it in China. I don't like the look on your face. You're under arrest. You know, do we have that here? Who cares what Trump wanted to do, but never actually did? Do you know how many men in this country today would be in prison on rape or sexual harassment convictions if they could be tried for the things they thought about doing or wanted to do? Like every day? Jimmy Carter lusted in his heart. How many years imprisonment did he get? None. Do you know how many spouses today would be in prison for murder if they could be convicted for what they contemplated doing before, during, or after divorce proceedings? Do you know how many New York Mets fans would be in prison today if they could be convicted for what they thought or they wish they could do or still would like to do to Mets management? You know, Pat Cipollone, who's too professional when he calls it all ridiculous. It's way ridiculous. It isn't merely ridiculous. It's freaking insane. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, are people allowed to say it's retarded? I don't want to offend any retards out there, especially full-on retards. Let's just say it's stupid. Every single day, some new, completely irrelevant issue arises to attack President Trump. For a week, the corrupt journalist corps, the empire, media empire, listened and reported with bated breath to every word Adam Schiff for brains or Mr. Nadless had to speak. An entire week, it was full of Schiff. In my home, in the background, every time Schiff is on TV, I change the channel. I go to YouTube. I play a bar or two of, I don't know, Led Zeppelin. And then write an op-ed article if I can, or write notes for my program. For an entire week, this media empire promoted his propaganda. And it was kind of insulting to my intelligence, because if you watch CNN or MSNBC or any of the mainstream channels, every time Schiff for brains was up there in his fantasy bugging his eyes out and waving his hands and playing his melodrama, they never panned away. They kept the camera right on him. They played it for the whole world to see. But as soon as the defense attorneys came on and started shooting it down, as soon as the Republicans began making their sense and stating their facts, they would pan away. None of their listener audience saw it. Now that's called manipulation. That's called meddling in the 2020 election. They say that people like him never forget. You know, Stalin was a dictator. Hitler was a dictator. Mussolini was a dictator. Mao was a dictator. Pol Pot, Hugo Chavez, Fidel Castro, Xi Jinping, they're dictators. You see, if Trump were a dictator, the way they're portraying him to be in the media empire press, 5 things would have to be true. We now would have the entire wall erected because Trump simply would have taken the money as he liked, disregarded the Obama judges, and built it. Second, CNN would be off the air permanently, as would be MSNBC, as would be half the guests on certain Fox News shows. You'd never hear from a Juan Williams again. You'd never hear from, what is that woman's name? I can't even stand to hear her voice. It's like fingernails on a chalkboard to me. Somebody in the chat room will get it. Jessica Tarloff, that's it. Gone. The New York Times, Washington Post would either no longer be publishing or they would be used exclusively at the fish market to wrap fish. Schiff would be sentenced to a punishment so severe, it's hard to fathom. 20 years of speaking only the truth or watching the Impeachment Show over and over and over again. Nadless would be by order of the dictator, to have his stomach stapled again to his neck. It's all absolutely outrageous. Lies, damn lies, more damn lies. No end to the daily lies, the daily exaggeration. Who freaking cares what Bolton wrote? It makes no difference what the president says to his advisors behind closed doors as he fulminates, contemplates, negotiates, hypothesizes. It doesn't matter. Ronald Reagan once caught on a hot mic by saying that he would nuke the Soviet Union in a matter of moments. So what? The reason a president has advisors is so that he can confidently bounce ideas, no matter how crazy, off of them. Some who think of him like he's nuts, some who support him. In order to benefit from a synthesis of perspectives, give me what you got. Here's my thinking. Give me what you got. You know about this country. You're an advisor. You're an analyst. Tell me what you think. I may not agree with it. On the other hand, you may enlighten me. You may instill me with some new caution. Maybe I won't nuke this. Maybe I won't send troops there. Maybe I won't put this sanction or that sanction in place. The problem is that the modern day 24-hour news cycle forces cable news outlets to lie. It forces them to exaggerate shamelessly. Why? So we won't go binge on Netflix. So we won't turn on the Disney Plus channel or Amazon Prime. So we'll stay glued to them because we're afraid we might miss something. Somebody's going to get fart and we're not going to get to smell it. Even though I will not be watching the Super Bowl when it is played in a few weeks or whenever. I think it's this Sunday. I might watch. I mean, I think the 49ers are going to walk away with it because the front line is unstoppable and they just have too many tools and all the tools are healthy. On the other hand, I kind of would like to see Kansas City win. I think Mahomes deserves it. I think he has the drive. I think they're surprising and they're energetic and they like to pass and they like to run. But, we'll see what happens. That's why we watch. Well, I was going to say that's why we watch the Super Bowl, but that isn't really true, is it? We watch for the commercials. No, we don't watch for the halftime show. The halftime shows are pretty good. I like when The Who was on and the Stones, and I even like Lady Gaga. But I watch for the commercials, don't you? I mean, come on. The sound doesn't really matter when the game's going on. We're drinking, we're eating, we're grazing or whatever. But when the commercials, hold on. Let's listen to this commercial. Yeah, the commercials are great. That's why we watch the Super Bowl. But by contrast, if nobody watches CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, then they lose major bucks. They lose because the advertisers don't get the hits. They don't get the views. So Fox News has this nonsense that sees their hosts proclaim Fox News alert, breaking news, over and over and over again. Don't you think they get tired of using that? And that I can hear the music right now. I obviously can't imitate it. But 3 minutes later, then they say, and then the other two, CNN, MSC, they do it by declaring that we are under constant blitzkrieg and air attack like the nightly bombing raids of Nazis, bombing indiscriminately London. Every 3 minutes, their analysts, their reporters, their experts, Colonel this, Captain that, Lieutenant General this, Secretary that is on there as a Fox News contributor making $1 million a year to spout their bombshell or their smokescreen. I mean, if it wasn't Omarasa, it's Avenatti, it's Michael Cohen, it's Mueller, it's Russia collusion, one after the other after the other. It's just like Dresden during World War II or Hiroshima. The viewer, we don't have any air cover, okay? We either must race to a bomb shelter or, heaven forbid, change the channel. No, don't change the channel. It all is nothing. None of what they're saying in the Impeachment Show Season 5 matters. Okay? Obama denied Ukraine the lethal aid it desperately begged for. He whispered to the Russians they would be more, flexible after the election. The Bidens collected $1 million bribe or $1 billion investment from China or $83,000 a month for what? For a favor? For political influence? Well, yeah. Even if Trump had held up the money authorized by Congress, and I would say he would be justified to do it, and he refused to release it. The president alone is empowered under the Constitution to conduct foreign policy. And I can tell you right now, the president of the United States better damn well not be giving out any money without a quid quo pro. If you give money, I don't care what country it's to. I don't care if it's to Somalia or Biafra or Honduras. You better have a quid pro quo. We better get something from that country for the money. Taxpayers demand it. Amidst all the nonsense, Trump, because he is so utterly annoying to those people that he annoys, also inadvertently has exposed the character of the people on the Republican side of the aisle. I mean, be serious. When he announced his candidacy, within a year, 35 major establishment Republicans had either quit or resigned. Why? Because they couldn't, well, there are several reasons. One is they couldn't stand to watch the empire, the cash machine that they had built, be torn apart by this man. Second of all, they were compromised. They were implicated. And maybe they were given an ultimatum. Look, go away. Go home. Go home to your kids. Your 30-year, your 28-year, your 35-year career is over. Go home. Go enjoy your retirement. We're not going to bother you. Live out your life and go away. Of course, a couple refused to do that. John McCain and others, and Romney and those guys refused to do it. They're back in the game. They're still manipulating, Collins and Feinstein and Murkowski and others. They're still in the game, and they're still influencing. Yes, there are Republicans on that side too. I don't know about Lindsey Graham. I don't know. Sometimes he's on the right side. Sometimes he's not on the right side. Is he a smart guy? Yeah, he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. And then in one sense, I do agree with him. I don't think we should be calling witnesses. If we call Hunter Biden, then we have to call the entire alphabet soup. We got to have the FBI. We got to have the DOJ. We got to have the FISA judges. We got to have everybody in. We got to bring Ukrainians in, Russians in. We got to bring them all in. And guess what? The Impeachment Show season 5 is going to go to season 6 and season 7, and we're going to be right up against the election and still running this impeachment. And that's exactly what the global syndicate wants. They want us in confusion. They want us fighting each other. They want us divided. They want states to remove Trump's name from the ballot. And then there's the others. There's the grudge holders, the moral midgets, the Clintons, the Rices, the Brennans. I mean, just unbelievable nastiness among people, driving it and pushing it and twisting us. And I don't want to see that happen. So today's Wednesday. I want by Friday, that's about 48 hours from now, I want this over with. You hear me? I want the acquittal done. And then I want the writ of Masmus or whatever it is. I want it expunged. I want all the ink from those $15,000 trays of pens that Nancy Pelosi with her signature etched in gold on the side of the pens. I want all that ink erased as though this impeachment never happened. And then I want the election of 2020 to clean the slate. I think the Democrat Party, as it sits, should go bankrupt. I think the DNC, when it has its committee in 2020, it should be a brokered convention. It should be an absolute brawl of a fist fight. Yes, I think Tulsi Gabbard should be in there hooking Hillary out of her shoes. I think Spartacus should be in there, poking anchor baby Kamala Harris between the eyes. I think, it should be a brawl. It should be the brawl that it is. And the world should see the Democrat Party for what it has become. I know you're saying, oh, but Bernie, he's surging in the polls. No, that's not what's happening. That is not what's happening. All you have to do is remember the movie Days of Thunder. Remember the movie Days of Thunder? Tom Cruise, going around the circle track and Robert Duvall as the chief mechanic, and all that. Remember all that? Yeah. You remember when he was going around the track and he seemed to be pulling away from all the other cars? And Robert Duvall called him up on the intercom and said, "Hey, Cole, you got to slow down. You're going too fast. You're pulling away from everybody." And Cole said, "I'm not going too fast. Everybody else is slowing down." And the analysts with the stopwatches sitting next to Robert Duvall said, "Oh, he's right. All the other cars are slowing down." That's what's happening in Iowa. That's what's happening. Bernie's not surging in the polls. Everyone else is slowing down. It looks like Bernie's in the lead, but he's not. He's nowhere further than he was before. The issue is everyone else is slowing down. The entire party is being abandoned. The walk-away movement has become the run-away movement. People are running away from the Democrat Party because of Schiff for brains, because of Nadlis, because of Pelosi's unbelievably gauche grab for the presidency for herself. Her and her gold pens and her meth head wigged out, trying to keep her dentures in her face speakership. It's insane. People need to run from this party. They need to let it die, go down in flames, And then later, it can rise as the phoenix, as the socialism and communism in the party burn themselves out. And then an American party can re-emerge from it. If it's going to. If not, then replace it. Replace it with another party. Maybe the Democrat Party goes away. Maybe another party rises. Maybe the American Party. Maybe the Constitution Party. I don't know. Maybe the Green Energy Party. At least we'll know what it stands for. At least there won't be any deception. We'll take a quick break in about 5 minutes. I want to run this story. Locusts. Locusts, like grasshoppers. Billions of them. In swarms the size of cities, are eating everything in sight in East Africa. And experts fear the plague could get 500 times worse. You know why? Because there's a boom in the crop. Because everything is growing like mad. And this bloom in locusts is biblical. It's absolutely biblical. The ravenous locust swarms that are the size of cities are consuming crops at a staggering pace. It could potentially cause famine on the African continent that is unlike anything ever seen before. Al Jazeera previously reported locusts, dense clouds of the ravenous insects, each of which consume its own weight in food every single day, that have spread from Ethiopia and Somalia into Kenya. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization estimated one swarm in Kenya at around 2,400 square kilometers. One swarm, 930 square miles. Yeah, that's an area the size of Moscow. Yeah, it means it could contain up to 200 billion locusts. It's being described as the biggest locust invasion in Ethiopia and Somalia in at least 25 years. Even the cows are wondering what's happening. And the threat, it's not diminishing. If unchecked, locust numbers could increase 500 times by June. That's 5 months. 5 months of eating their weight in groceries every single day, spreading to Uganda, South Sudan. It's going to become a plague that will devastate crops and pastures in a region which is already one of the poorest and most vulnerable in the world. The plague followed a drought in 2019 that later turned into one of the wettest rainy seasons in 4 decades. The floods killed hundreds. We must act immediately and at a scale to combat and contain this invasion. As the rains start in March, there will be a new wave of locust breeding. This, therefore, is the best time to control the swarms and safeguard people's livelihoods and food security and avert further worsening of the food crisis. The Economic Collapse blog said, and I quote, "It would be hard to overstate what this is going to mean for the region. We have seen starvation in Africa before. In fact, there was a time when our airwaves were filled with images of starving African children. But if this plague continues to get even worse, the stage is being set for a famine that is far greater than anything that any of us have ever witnessed." The blog reported Save the Children's regional director for East and Southern Africa, Ian Vale, said in a statement that his staff in Kenya is battling swarms so thick they can barely get through them. The impact on crops and pasture land will be severe. We are very concerned that this will place vulnerable children even closer to the brink of starvation. We're looking at possibly an entire generation dying because of competitive inhibition. Competitive inhibition is where some other being comes into the set of sustenance, be it food or water, and consumes it, and then they die. Obviously, the locusts are going to starve themselves out. Once they eat out a field, they don't have the ability to fly hundreds of miles to the next field. That group will die. It could happen very quickly. This happened in Utah in the 1800s. After the Mormons had got there, the first thing they did was plant fields of wheat, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of acres of wheat. And what happened? Well, it wasn't locusts, it was crickets. Crickets came by the millions, by the billions, and they began consuming the grain. Well, the Mormons were a long way from where they came, from Missouri and from Nebraska and from Illinois. And if this field were wiped out, there was no way to import enough food to sustain the population. But the Mormons, what could they do? They went out with brooms and tried to kill the crickets, but they were dividing too fast and they were eating everything in sight. And suddenly, literally suddenly, after a day long of prayer, what came over the mountain? But thousands and thousands and thousands of seagulls. Seagulls came. And the seagulls descended on the crickets. And they ate so many crickets that their stomachs were distended. And so the seagulls would regurgitate. They would throw up all the crickets that they had eaten, and they would go eat another load. And the seagulls saved the wheat crop. And that's why the seagull is the state bird of Utah today. Now, I don't know if seagulls can take on locusts. Locusts are about that long. And I don't know if a seagull could eat them all. Maybe it would take, pelicans or something. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with more America Free Radio on the Revolution Radio Network on freedomslips.com. Right after these messages, don't go away. I'll put a little break screen on there, and let's see. We'll also let the chat room continue to go. Don't forget that little top chat button down there at the bottom. You can always donate, and I will talk about your chat. What is it? The swarm? Oh, it was engineered, no doubt. Could be, but a lot of people are saying that it's the judgment of God. Who knows? Who knows? Lots of strange things been going on in Africa, from Boko Haram to, killing white farmers and taking their farms without compensation. Lots of shenanigans going on. Maybe this is just Mother Nature. Mother Nature, who knows? I don't know why the same thing doesn't happen in Kansas or Nebraska. Maybe it's because of the insecticides we use. Not so sure. Everyone should check out the documentary. What is that? Cold Case? I'll have to read it during the break. I promise, Mike. I'll highlight this when we come back. Don't go away. More X Squared Radio coming at you right after these messages. Okay, let's see what we can do with that. I don't know if the studio's commercials are over yet. They might interrupt us yet, but we'll try to continue on. Just wanted to remind you the Human Origins Conference. This is going to be 30 hours of presentations. It's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, April 2nd through 5th. If you're within a couple hundred miles of this place, I want you to meet me there. Pick up a signed copy of the book. Listen to the lecture. A little bit more preamble going on. Almost there, I'm sure. We're probably right at the end of it. It's difficult to know. We don't duplex with the Revolution Radio studio, but that's all right. We'll get through it. You YouTubers are very patient with that kind of stuff, and I appreciate it very much. Don't forget to join by subscribing if you haven't already, and please turn on your notifications. I sent out a little pre-video, 14-second video at about 10 minutes to 6 tonight, and that should have alerted you that tonight's program was going to come on. And I know many, many hundreds of you listen during the week. You pick this up on your own time. But my goal this year is to get to 10,000 subscribers. 10,000, I promise. Great bonuses if we get to 10,000. Right now, we're just under 2,500, so that's aggressive, I know. But this is one of the top-rated radio programs on the air today, and there's no reason why we should not be able to get there. Yes, I know I'm competing with the Revolution Radio preamble. We'll let it play. It's just one of those things. We don't duplex with the studio. Should be through by now. Piper, I'm glad you're here. It's okay. You don't have to be here right on time. You can come anytime you want because a wizard is never late. Matrix, good to see you out there. Always enjoy your comments. Yes, I know. By the way, Paula is putting out a new film, a new documentary. Remember, she did Holes in Heaven back in 1997. It was probably the most sold documentary on the high-frequency active auroral research program in the world ever, of all time. But Paula, even though she was the producer, reaped no benefit from it. So she's doing an updated one with all new film, and she's pouring a lot of her time and money into it. We hope to see that come out pretty soon. I think there are 27 operating ionospheric heaters now. I don't think they're coordinated, but they're primarily built in and around deposits of oil and gas, or at least where they're exploring for it because of the Earth tomographical features of HAARP. They're able to look deep into the Earth and find these large oil and gas reservoirs, which you can't find any other way. You can't find them with seismic. You dang sure can't find them with wildcat drilling. Not that deep, too expensive. So they use the HAARPs to do it. This is technology I developed in 1983. I was the one that developed it. I was the one that published it. And then Bernard Eastland used it as to develop the high-powered HAARP system. Mine was not very high-powered, only took 50 watts, and not the billions of watts that HAARP uses. Of course, I couldn't look that deep. I could only see about 3,000 feet into the ground, but it was very accurate, very, very well done. The papers were very well done, and that's why I was invited to be a featured scientist on the original documentary, and why I'm a featured scientist on this latest version as well. So yes, that is going on out there, Matrix, and we'll see how it comes out. The idea is to make people aware that the technology is out there and that it's being used in nefarious ways. What is it? Gang of Fear? There are larger ones that are one in Alaska. Maybe. The one in Alaska isn't operating anymore. It's a phased array. It uses giant square wave antennas as a phased array and can generate tremendous amounts of power. But it is up in the Pacific Northwest, and even though it was built to utilize the large gas reserves the U.S. Navy had in the area, it was not used so much for Earth tomographical as it was for steering the stratosphere and thus influencing the atmospheric river, which by a side effect could move the weather around. It was a phenomenon that was discovered with that unit. There are more of them, and if they work in concert with one another, they can actually, have greater effect. But these HARP units that are not built where the jet stream is do not have that effect on the weather. They're used for other things. They're used for Earth tomography, not for weather manipulation. Yes, China has some, and Russia has the oldest one, actually. And there's one off the Pacific Southwest in the ocean. And there are several others, but I think they're smaller. Gang of Four is up in New Hampshire. Good to know. He says he's aware of that. It's the only way we have to communicate on this because it's not a live call-in program. So you can communicate with me at the YouTube chat, which is good, and I'm trying to keep up with it. It moves pretty fast sometimes. Don't forget about the Human Origins Conference, and don't forget that Contact in the Desert is coming up at the end of May. That's the biggest in the world. It's the biggest in the world. If you want to see other people that are in this genre, this is the place to go. There'll be 5,000 to 6,000 people there. I will be the keynote speaker on Saturday night in the big room. This is the room that holds 1,200 people, so it's going to be pretty awesome. I will be speaking on asteroid mining and the future of energy. Yes, we will be covering helium-3 mining on the moon, and we'll cover the Cis Lunar and Cis Mars projects. It's going to be pretty amazing. You should see it. And don't forget the North Pole Inner Earth Expedition. You can always sign up to that by going to npiee.com. The description will be right below here. If you're looking on YouTube, you can see it on the screen. It's right down here in the more description. Go there. It's free to sign up for the newsletter, and then from there up, you can participate $5 all the way up to $5,000 to become part of the expedition. There are lots and lots of ways of being part of it. We make it available and easy for everyone because we want everyone to come with us. There are only 125 spaces on the ship, but you'll be there anyway because we're going to be live streaming from the boat, and you want to be watching that live stream. And it's affordable. It's like $25 a month to watch that. It's crazy stuff. But without your participation, it is going to happen. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen in the next few months. Because the Impeachment Show, I hope, is over this Friday. I think season 5 is the season finale. I think what will happen is, and this is where the past meets the future, and I've kind of been out to the future and looked back on this. Impeachment is not something that the public wants to go on and on and on. We're kind of tired of the 5 seasons. And we've already seen, The Wicked Witch, and we've seen Nadlis, and now we've seen Schiff for Brains, and, we've met Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and we've met Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman from Somalia. We know who all the players are, and we're sick of it. We have hives. We're nauseated, and we're not enjoying our Super Bowl this Sunday. So we want this to be over on Friday so we can enjoy the commercials. So we can enjoy the commercials on the Super Bowl. That's why we watch the Super Bowl, right? Go Chiefs. All right. But there is a candidate who's also a billionaire. He's richer than Trump by a long ways. Unfortunately, he is dry as old oatmeal. And he is also a card-carrying member of the global syndicate media empire. His name is Michael Bloomberg. You may have heard of a little organization called Pueblo Sin Frontera. Have you ever heard of that? Fronteras, I'm sorry. Pueblo Sin Fronteras. It means countries without borders. And it is funded by the billionaire Michael Bloomberg. And what this organization does, this non-governmental organization, this NGO does with their money, is they run a massive marketing program in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. And the marketing program goes something like this. Come to America and you could make your way across the border and we will give you health care and we will give you a job and we will make sure you have amnesty. And we'll also take care of you on your path. We'll make sure everything's moved out of your way. And when you get to the border, there will be these friendly guys with the cartels that will guide you across the border. And, you know, for a nominal fee, you can make your way across the border. This is what Pueblo Sin Fronteras does. It provides attorneys for them. It provides, water and maybe fresh flip-flops as you're walking 2,000 miles with nothing but the clothes on your back to fulfill your dreams of moving from Honduras to San Diego. This is the guy. This is the guy that's doing it. Well, now he's running for president. Sort of. I mean, sort of. He's in the debates. There's plenty of evidence to the contrary. Is he really running or is he not? So let me just share that with you. For one, he declared that he's running for president. I guess, he spent the money to get himself in the caucuses and he says he's running. He's also hired more than 1,000 staff, and it's still expanding. That's a lot. I mean, most campaigns are run with volunteers. They don't have paid staff. They may have a few, people to get water or, to put makeup on or to say, oh, you were so good. You're the best. You're the best ever. Those kind of paid staff. But everyone else is volunteers. However, he's also paying salaries for these people just way above, the average. Like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez paid her boyfriend $380,000 to be her staffer. I mean, yeah, he's her boyfriend and stuff. And legally you can't take campaign funds and turn it into personal money, but you can pay a staffer. And just because he happens to be your boyfriend and, kind of like, hey, can I pay your rent for you? Or can I get you more clothes to wear? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm sure there are benefits, but the main thing is the money. This week, Michael Bloomberg became the first of the declared candidates to have campaigned in all 14 states of March 3rd Super Tuesday primary battle. First of all, he's not a senator, so he doesn't have to be in Washington, like the other senator candidates that are voting to impeach their opponent. I don't know how that goes. I don't even know how that works. But he's the only one. And he spent $250 million on political advertising so far, and he has political action committees running attack ads against his opponents. All would point toward Michael Bloomberg's running for president, right? I mean, he is. All indications are that he is. But you see, there's a snag. And that's why you listen to this program, because I'm going to tell you what's wrong with it. You see, he wanted to do all this anyway. Everything, that is. But the declaration bit. That is, he was loath to do. But the staff, you see, the ad spending, the campaigning, he was going to do all this to defeat President Donald Trump already. But we only know that because he told us so. It's not so much that he wants to win. He wants Donald Trump to lose. So, as of a year ago, the billionaire Michael Bloomberg pledged he'd spend at least $500 million to defeat the president as either a candidate or what Politico called a shadow political party for the Democratic nominee. Doesn't really want to run for president. He doesn't want to be president. He just wants Donald Trump not to be president. So this massive spend, the report continued, represents just 1% of Bloomberg's estimated net worth. He's worth over $50 billion, way more than Donald Trump ever was. Just a month later, the wealthy New Yorker laughed at the idea he would ever run for president, mocking Amtrak Joe Biden for apologizing for being male, over 50, and white. And Beto O'Rourke, the Bloomberg joked, had apologized for being born. Well, a few months later, he jumped in the race anyway. But what does the world-renowned winner have any intention of actually winning? I mean, what if he actually won? I mean, holy crap. I mean, we might as well all agree it's strange to hear the hyper-competitive Bloomberg declare that he will pay his sizable staff to work on behalf of the people who are supposed to be his primary opponents. His army of some 500 staffers will march on through the general election in November, even if he loses the Democratic nomination. Why? Because he can, because he has the money to. But why? If he doesn't have the nomination, if he doesn't have a chance of a snowball in hell of getting the nomination, why would his 500 staffers continue to work? You see, Bloomberg has said the same of the now $2 billion he's reportedly willing to spend for any campaign to defeat Trump. This magnanimity in defeat doesn't seem to square with Michael Bloomberg, cutthroat capitalist billionaire that he is, but it does make sense when viewed in the light of his Bloomberg News empire. You know, he owns Bloomberg News, and it is a like Associated Press. It's like Reuters. It's a news service. You pay to have that stream. He is one of the global syndicate media empire, media moguls. Because in this aspect of business, he's a man who wants his ideas in the world, and he is willing to pay to make that happen. So, you know, why become a candidate? Why not just be a very powerful lobbyist? Why not just do what the Clintons do and sell influence, buy influence? People are willing to sell it. Go buy it. Even so, Bloomberg could pour billions into an organization to sway elections. He could pour billions into the Cook brothers, into Google, into Facebook, into Twitter. He could make a new social media if he wanted to influence the election, just like George Soros does. And then, you know, there's something campaigns have and that no PAC has, and that's access, because he is one of the media moguls, to the best rates the market has to offer. He doesn't have to pay retail. He pays wholesale because he is the media. You see, super PACs, they got to pay for everything. They got to pay for the airtime. And not a little more, depending on the spend. These outfits pay maybe double or 3 times what a candidate for office must pay for advertisements in digital, radio, cable, newspapers, and whatever. You know why? Because of the commission. Every single time one of these PACs make an ad buy for a specific candidate, there's a commission that's paid. Yeah, you see, let's talk about Bernie Sanders just for a minute, just parenthetically to show you how this works. Bernie Sanders wants to run ads, and so they do a media buy. Well, in order to do a media buy, you have to contact a media buying firm, right? A firm that goes out and buys all the spots. So you pay the firm the money, they go buy the ad spots, and the firm gets to keep 15%. That's their commission for the ad buys. Well, guess who runs the media buy firm? Mrs. Sanders. Yes, Bernie Sanders' wife runs the media buy company. So now just think of, okay, Bernie raises the money for campaigns from thousands and thousands of small grassroots investors, and they buy into his campaign. The campaign then writes a check to the media buy company, which makes the media buy. Of course, they scrape 15% off the top. Well, what has happened is Bernie Sanders' family, him and his wife, him and the head of the media empire that's buying all the media, they've put $2 million cash into their pockets during Bernie Sanders' campaign. Yeah. So this is how Bernie Sanders, the communist candidate for president, who wants to do away with your private property, do away with your 401k, do away with your self-directed IRA, do away with inheritance by just taking all the inheritance that, when a person dies, their kids don't inherit anything. He wants to seize control of all the nation's universities and make them all state-owned. He wants to take over the entire healthcare industry and charge you a tax to have access to it. And the list goes on and on and on, all the time purporting that poverty is great, that being poor is great, that being taken care of by the state is wonderful, that income inequality is bad. And who's making themselves rich off of it? Why, the socialist. That's who. The socialist is making himself rich, because every time they make a media ad buy, his wife scrapes 15% off the top, and that goes right into their joint bank account. So all of these grassroots contributors to my campaign, 15% of it goes right into his back pocket, making the socialist very wealthy. Those who live under socialism, you got another thing coming. See, by law, candidates for office are entitled to the best treatment a station can give. In the 45 days before a primary and the 60 days before a general election, Radio and Television Reports explains, and I quote, legally qualified candidates get the lowest rate for a spot that is then running on the station within any class of advertising time and particular day part. They can't gouge you. If a private entity earned a bonus spot, the ability for his ads to preempt other ads or any other perks, those must also be made available on equal time to the person running for office. Of course, they got to have the money to pay. Somebody is getting a deal for buying in bulk. Yes. So then is the candidate, even if the campaign isn't buying in bulk, and on and on and on. The super PACs, though, they're not candidates. They're not candidates. They don't get the perk. They don't get that protection. And they're often treated as whipping boys and charged rates 2, 3, 4 times as much, especially for prime time, than the candidates are charged. And of course, there's the reputational aspect. Selfless and successful businessman who is generous to his opponents when they have common cause versus bellicose billionaires spending untraceable money in the shadows. See, Bloomberg is very, very unlikely, like I think not even possible, to win the presidency. In fact, he's not even going to get close to winning the nomination. An anti-teachers union, anti-gun, pro-nanny state, pro-Wall Street, pro-stop and frisk, pro-inequality, pro-immigration, pro-surveillance, pro-Iraq war, neoconservative is almost surgically designed to repel practically every American voter on some level. He ain't built for elections. The New Republic pointed out in 2016, and the same remains true today. But once his goals are clearly understood, Bloomberg, the candidate for public office, might be far shrewder than at first it seems. And there's good reason to see a danger to our freedoms in all of this. Now listen closely, because late last fall, the Trump campaign announced 313,000 first-time donors had given to his reelection campaign. That's crazy. The same month, Bernie Sanders proclaimed he'd received 1.8 million donations that averaged a little less than $20 a pop. These are just two examples from the different ends of the political spectrum, but they offer a slice of what real democracy looks like, with average citizens donating a few bucks here, a few bucks there to the candidate they think represents them best in Washington. Think now. Think for a second. Because Michael Bloomberg, the Wall Street billionaire, whom DC's flunky press affectionately calls mayor of the world, seeks to drown all that out. All 2.2 million of those donations. He's going to drown them all out with his checkbook. He doesn't like the man voters put in the White House. So he's going to spend billions of dollars to undo that. Look, money has always been a player in politics, and it may always be unless we go to term limits and unless we don't let senators run for election anymore, but put them back to being appointed by state legislatures. Money is in politics, and unless those two things happen under a convention of the states, I'm afraid that's the way it is. People use it for good. People use it for evil. And Americans will cheer their selflessness or decry their selfishness, depending on whether they agree with the politics or not. None of it changes that Bloomberg is going around the campaign finance laws designed to keep American Republic answerable to the speech, the money, this free speech is money, of its citizens. He's going around all that. And the scary thing is, he isn't even running for president. All he's really trying to do is undo the presidency. And this is what's not good for America. Let me check this text really quick. I don't know. What does this mean to us? I get these partial texts. It's another way that listeners get a hold of me. Something else. Matrix, you couldn't be more correct. Rogue is exactly right. And the way our campaign finance laws are set up now, it's allowable. It is allowable. I mean, if a man wants to spend his own money and run for president, he can. It doesn't mean that he'll win. But, you know, Attila the Hun had a very strange philosophy. Attila the Hun said, "It is not enough to win. All others must lose." And this is the kind of attitude that guys like Michael Bloomberg have. They're used to controlling everything. You know, when you get to be worth $1 billion, the minimum amount of interest on your money is more than you could possibly spend in 300 years. I mean, you could be paid $10,000 a day, $10,000 a day, every day, 7 days a week. I don't know how many of you could spend $10,000 a day. I don't mean, you know, going and buying jewelry or buying real estate. That's easy. But I mean on yourself, clothes to wear, a haircut, shoes, maybe a car to drive. You could not spend $10,000 a day. Oh, you just couldn't. I mean, you'd have to sleep in eventually. You'd have a hangover, sore butt or something. You couldn't do it. But if you did spend $10,000 a day, you realize the $1 billion would last 300 years. Yeah, 300 years. Now, $50 billion net worth. That's not counting your holdings. That's not counting actual cash flow a year. That's your net worth. In other words, if you didn't make another dime, that's the money you have in the bank. The interest on that is more than 1,000 families could spend in 1,000 years. It's just insane amount of money. And I don't agree with AOC that you don't make $1 billion, you take $1 billion. This is what scalability is all about. You know, here on this radio program, we reach a few hundred of you live, maybe less than 50 or 60 of you on YouTube live. Over a week's time, maybe 500 or 600. That's it. That's it. That's all we reach. Now, if I could scale that up to 50,000, or some people out there have 300,000 live listeners, I'm never going to get there because I'm not pretty. I mean, if I was pretty, I'd have a bigger audience. That's just the way it is. It's a hobby. It's not scalable. You understand what I'm saying? If I could scale this to where 1 million people listen to me a day, I could monetize it. I might actually be able to replace my own income with it. Wow. You see, that's a different lifestyle altogether. What we're talking about is that not what you do, not even what you can offer people, not even what you could sell to people is your income. Your money is your income. Your money becomes a workhorse for you. And that's the difference. That's the difference between being well off and being wealthy. Being well off means you can go to the grocery store and you can shop for whatever you want. Name brand. Everything you could eat in a week or two. And you could check out. And you don't even have to look at the receipt. That's well off. That's well off. You don't have to check nothing. Whether they charge you twice for the Jolly Green Giant frozen florets of broccoli or not. Because it just doesn't matter. But being wealthy is something completely different. Being wealthy, your money earns money. Your money earns more money than you could ever spend. Your money grows so fast that you and 100 of your friends couldn't spend the growth on your money. Yeah. And yes, I do have condolences for the Bryant family. But Kobe Bryant was 41 years old. He was one of the most amazing athletes to ever have lived, to have ever played the game of basketball. He raised the game of basketball possibly to what it is today. And he was 41. He was 41. Not playing basketball anymore. His net worth, $500 million. $500 million. The money he was earning was off his money. His helicopters, his time was his asset. Time was his asset. His presence in places was his asset. And he didn't need to work ever again. He could wear a new suit, custom made every single day, and throw the old one away at the end of the day for the rest of his life. And it would never impact his wealth. But tonight I require thy soul of thee. And so now whose is all this stuff? This is the difference between being a part of the human race and thinking you're above the human race. Thinking that you have become some kind of dictator, that your ideas are all that matter. And this is why I think presidents like Donald Trump are hated so badly. Because for 25 years, Donald Trump wrote and spoke about what was wrong with America. He never changed. He never wavered. The permanent war culture he abhorred, the open borders he abhorred, the domination of big pharma, of the agencies, departments, bureaus, administrations, the lobbyists. He was against all of it. He hated the banks. He hated what they were doing to his town, to New York. He fought them all the time, his whole life. And he probably should have retired, a wealthy man, let his kids take over his empire, and he should have golfed, and he should have been a philanthropist, donating to actors and songwriters and causes for the rest of his life. Except for one thing. Somebody was trying to destroy America. Somebody was trying to sell out America. And he couldn't take it. Couldn't stand it. Talked it over with his beautiful wife and his beautiful sons and his beautiful daughter. And they said, Dad, if you think you can save this country, I think you should do it. And he did. He ran. And who did he run for? Certainly not himself. Good God, people. He had the life. He had everything. He was worth $15 billion. He changed the skyline of whole cities all around the world. His name, his colors, his ethics were everywhere. And he was loved by everyone. He had the life. Nobody hated Donald Trump. Everybody loved Donald Trump. They came to Trump Tower and they happily left with a check for their cause. They had their homes paid off. They had their doctor bills paid. They loved Donald Trump. He had the life, but they were selling out his country. Hillary Clinton, if she would have won, America would be no more. You know that, and I know that. And he couldn't let it happen. And so he sacrificed all of it. Somewhere in that fog of pre-election decision-making, you know he had to go to the roof. You know he had to go to the roof, all alone. He had to look up into the stars and say, God, what am I to do? What do you want me to do? And somewhere in that conversation, I imagine God said, give everything you have to the poor and come follow me. Now, normally, a rich man who's in love with his wealth, he's going to walk away sad because he can't do it. Can't sacrifice it all. Can't give it up. But that's not what Donald Trump did. Donald Trump signed it all away. Even his salary, everything. He gave it all away. To go live in a little White House with glass walls and glass ceilings where everyone could watch and hear and see everything he did. And where they would look into the past and they would look into the future and they would do everything they could do to destroy him, his wife, his children, and his empire. He sacrificed it all to save America. And what happened? In 3 years, he not only saved America, he saved the world. And it ain't over yet. The global syndicate doesn't like to lose. And they do very drastic and terrible things to win. They send Michael Bloombergs who know they can't win. They just know they'll spend all their money to make sure everyone else loses. And they set up tremendous empires. And they put dark, single-minded people at the head of those empires. You know, China is the world champion at cancel culture. Only when the communist tyranny cancels you, you aren't hounded off social media. Much more than that. You're not pushed out of a job in the media or academia. No, you are literally canceled. you're executed, you're organ harvested, you're imprisoned, you're forced into a concentration camp, or you're excluded from all social participation in society. It doesn't matter. If you're a wealthy actress, everybody knows your face. You speak out against the government, you're canceled. It's Control-Alt-Delete for you, baby. The targets of this despotism are primarily religious believers, teachers, Falun Gong, Muslims, and most recently Christians. Millions of them have been victimized by these vicious programs in recent years, and it appears the persecution is just getting started. Hong Kong will fall. Taiwan right behind it. Why is the Chinese government acting so ruthlessly against these major religions? Why do you think that is? I mean, people need meaning, not a strong suit of materialistic communism, but as the Bible states, faith can move mountains. Paranoid Chinese Communist Party leaders view organized religion as threatening. They threaten their desired absolute control over the Chinese people. Because on the one hand, you have China. On the other hand, you have Chinese. China is strong. They have the weapons, they have the uniforms, they have the intelligence, and they have the goal. But the Chinese outnumber China about 1,000 to 1. 1.2 billion Chinese and China. It's a big problem. The only thing that could equalize it is maybe, I don't know, a pandemic. Maybe a pandemic that breaks out in the middle of the country and wipes out 40, 50 million. Something like that, maybe? China is pursuing a two-tiered approach to this process they call social pulverization, jackboot thuggery, and social excommunication. The former more brutal, but the latter may ultimately be the most effective form of despotism ever imposed by any government in the history of the world. The first contemporary anti-religion pogrom in China focused on the Falun Gong. Founded in the early 1990s, the religion describes itself as an advanced self-cultivation practice of the Buddha school. Adherents seek assimilation to the highest qualities of the universe. Zen, Shan, Ren, truthfulness, compassion, forbearance. Through practice that employs meditation. Oh, these are really, really scary tactics. Specific stretching exercises to open up all the energy channels. That's definitely not what any government would want. And studying books written by its founders. And that would not seem threatening at all. But when Falun Gong refused to establish Communist Party branches in the 90s and gained tens of millions of adherents, the authorities decided to crush the movement. First, it was banned officially. And in 1999, the authorities mounted a persecution campaign ranging from public beatings to arrest and even murder, sometimes accompanied by organ harvesting to provide China's transplant black market with human kidneys and livers and hearts. The depth of this depravity was first forcefully exposed in an explosive report issued by Canadian former Member of Parliament David Kilgour and prominent human rights attorney David Maras. They did a 2006 documentary, a report into allegations of organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners in China. It was so shocking that it shocked the consciences of all decent people. Even though China is, to say the least, an opaque society that does not allow oversight from the outside, the evidence in this documentary, in 46 grueling pages, built a compelling expose of large-scale organ seizure from unwilling Falun Gong practitioners. The report noted that there were about 10,000 more transplants per year than identifiable sources for the organs that were procured. But it was the cumulative effect of the evidence that really proved pervasive. For example, did you know from 2000 to 2005, a time after the persecution of Falun Gong commenced, there was an increase of 41,500 transplants from the previous 6-year period. Now, where do you think the organs came from? They didn't have that many accidents. They didn't have that many people in comas or falling down stairs. You see, the allegation of organ harvesting from Falun Gong practitioners is the only thing that provides the answer. And there's much more. Several surviving families of the Falun Gong who died in detention reported seeing their loved ones' bodies with surgical incisions and body parts missing. One witness, who was not a Falun Gong member, told investigators that her surgeon husband told her that he personally removed the corneas from approximately 2,000 anesthetized Falun Gong prisoners. According to this hearsay evidence, none of the prisoners survived, and all of the bodies were cremated. As shocking as these conversations are, the most compelling evidence of systemic wrongdoing in Chinese organ procurement practices could be found in the breathtakingly brief time purchasers had to wait to receive a properly matched organ in China. Sometimes only a couple of days, sometimes a week, a period so brief that the authors worried that there are a number of people now alive who are available almost on demand as organ donors. China denounced the report and denied the truth of its content, but it also acted to outlaw organ selling. Unfortunately, that was merely a veneer. In The Slaughter, Mass Killings, Organ Harvesting in China's Secret Solution to Its Dissident Problem, which was published in 2014 in the middle of the Obama administration, China expert and author Ethan Gutmann estimated that between 2001 and 2008, some 65,000 organs were harvested from Falun Gong. These people were tissue typed. They were matched to organ purchasers, and then they were executed, and they were harvested. Illustrating the factual basis for the charge of mass organ harvesting from political prisoners in the 2009 book Larry's Kidney, Daniel Asa Rose tells the story of traveling with his cousin Larry to buy a new kidney in China. After a series of mishaps and complications, Larry got his new blood filter within a relatively short time. Oh, joy for Larry. But what about the dead harvested donor? As the bioethicist Arthur C. Kaplan, director of medical ethics in the Langone Medical Center, once put it, and I quote, "If you're going to China and you're going to get a liver transplant during the 3 weeks you are there, then that means someone is going to schedule an execution." And that's the way it's done. In addition to forced organ harvesting, the government has gone beyond a reasonable doubt, committed the following atrocities in the course of widespread and systemic attacks against the Falun Gong and the Muslims: murder, extermination, imprisonment, torture, rape, and any other form of sexual depravity or comparable gravity, persecution on racial, national, ethnic, cultural, religious grounds, and enforced disappearance. Taken together, the report concludes such attacks and such acts constitute crimes against humanity. Who can argue with that? Who can argue with that? Now, you would think if the Mexican cartels were doing it, it would be terrible. If there was some medical community in Boston or Louisiana doing it, it would be deplorable. But when a state does it, then it's something else. There are more Christians in China than there are Communist Party members. Over the last couple of decades, some of these underground churches were tolerated, but that changed. In 2018, when new rules promulgated suppressing religion and switching enforcement against unimproved churches to the Communist Party itself. What happened in 2018? What happened in 2018 is when Xi Jinping decided to become president for life. The people voted it in, and nobody seemed to block it. And now wait, it gets more insidious. In a move out of a dystopian futuristic novel, China's also introducing what's called a social credit system. It's very similar to our slave score system. In this country, we use a slave score system. Yeah, it's called your credit score, your FICO, right? This little numerical evaluation of you as a human being. You lose your job, you miss a payment, you are immediately discredited. You forget to pay a bill, and even if you do pay it off, that stays with you for 7 years. For 7 years, your life is ruined. You're devalued as a human being. Some dating services won't even let you list yourself as a potential date if your credit score is too low. You can't buy a car. You can't buy a house. In some cases, if you owe money, you can't get a passport and leave the country. You're not able to travel freely about the country. But in China, it's worse. It's worse because here, if you are paid in cash and you work for cash, you could disappear out of the system. You could say, screw the FICO. I don't care. I'm not going to carry debt. I'm going to be debt-free. I'm not going to resolve in the FICO score. I'm going to earn cash and I'm going to spend cash. And if I don't have it, I ain't spending it. And you could disappear and you could be free. But you can't in China because now they have a facial recognition technology, artificial intelligence, GPS on your phone, and you're required to carry your phone. And other means of high-tech surveillance track individual behavior and social associations. If you have the wrong friends on Facebook, if you miss a payment, if you buy the wrong magazines or watch the wrong videotapes or visit the wrong websites, all of this counts against your social score. Enter an unapproved church, lose points. Have a conversation with a person already denigrated with a low credit score, your score is lowered. Speak to foreigners, risk demerits. The system, already in almost full operation, applies both carrots and sticks. Benefits of a high social score can include lower cost rent, but the consequences of low social credit are draconian. In essence, societal excommunication, including job loss, the inability to rent an abode, even blackballing from riding the downtown bus. Oh, but it gets worse than that. The social sins of the parents are also borne by the children. A child can be kicked out of a university and stripped of his or her own ability to work, which in turn could destroy their future, for example, making them unable to find a spouse or participate in a community's social groups. Thank you very much, David Caldwell. Caldwell just gave $5 on the top chat. He says, I am wrong about the reason for your popularity, Brooks. You're completely beautiful to me. I am so humbled. I'm humbled to the dust. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am I'm humbled to the dust. I want you to know I don't want this country to become like China. I don't want that social score to take place here, but that technology's coming. It's coming. I've been in Instagram jail for a while now because my website, brooksagnew.com, full of poetry and philosophy and my books, it's been deemed to be abusive by somebody. And so Instagram prevents me from putting a link to my own website in my own profile. And so I can't like anything. I can't comment on anything. I can post and you could follow me, but I can't like what you say. I can't hit the little heart, and I can't put comments in there because I'm in Instagram jail. I just got out of Facebook jail. Yeah, I just now got out of Facebook jail where I can post brooksagnew.com as, my identifier in comments or in posts that I make on Facebook. I can still do it on Twitter, although nobody sees it. I have, 2,500 followers, but they don't see anything that I post. You 37 people here that are here tonight listening, you're the only people that hear this. The people that listen to the archives later on, they're the only people that hear this. And I appreciate so much people like David, who just contributed $5 on the chat, on the top chat. Thank you so much. That means the world to me, more than you know. This is X Squared Radio on the America Free Radio studio on the Revolution Radio Network, saying peace, Earth Explorers. Go out and look for the good in others and help it to grow a little every day. And before long, you will have saved the planet. Thank you so much for being part of the program. We'll see you next week.